بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We are resuming with the explanation of Surah Al-Insan, which is the second to last juz. It's a chapter in the second to last part of the Mus'haf. And we've reached the verse where Allah Ta'ala said, إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ لَفِي نَعِيمٍ إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ يَشْرَبُونَ مِنْ كَأْسٍ كَانَ مِزَاجُهَا كَافُورًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indeed the abrar, the righteous, the pious, they will drink from a cup, that is a cup of wine, whose mixture is kafur. So, the Shaykh, he says, Hafidhahullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then mentions a sinf al-thani, وَهُمْ أَهْلُ الْإِيمَانِ وَقَبْلَ ذَلِكَ هُمْ أَهْلُ الْكُفْرِ. We mentioned yesterday the people of disbelief, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said we prepared for them three things. Do you remember what it was? Chains. Salasil, Aghlal, was Sa'ir. And Sa'ir, the Shaykh mentioned, is what? It's one of the names of the fire. Al-Jahim, ism min asma' al-nar. Sa'ir, ism min asma' al-nar. It's a name, one of the names of hell. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yesterday we mentioned, Allah described something of the punishment that will be prepared for the disbelievers, and there were three things mentioned in that ayah, and that was chains, shackles and collars, and a blazing fire. May Allah protect us from all of that. Now we move on to the abrar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions another group, and this is something from the beautiful style of the speech of Allah ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, barakallahu feekum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, Allahu nazzala ahsan al-hadith, kitaban mutashabihan mathaniya. Allah sent down the greatest of speech, or the most beautiful of speech, a book which its parts resemble each other in excellency and goodness. It has no conflict in it. And it has mathani, it has parts that resemble each other. That is, it couples or pairs opposites together. So, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the reward for the people of piety and people of righteousness, then you will find Him mentioning what after that? The people of wickedness. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discusses the people of tawheed, then after that He can mention the people of shirk. So here we get something of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the sinf al-awwal, ahlul kufr, and the punishment, the jaza. Then He mentions after that, Ahlul Iman, the people of disbelief He mentioned first, and the recompense for their disbelief. Then He mentions after that, the people of righteousness, Al-Abrar, and the reward, the jaza, and the recompense for their doing good. Allah Ta'ala says that Abrar, the righteous, يَشْرَبُونَ مِنْ كَاسٍ, they're going to drink from a cup. Al-Abrar, جَمْعُ البَّرْ, وَهُوَ الْمُطِيعُ الْمُتَّقِي. The Abrar is plural for bar, and that is the muti', the person who is obedient, the muttaqi, the person who is God-fearing. That is, he obeys Allah. So, al-birr, kalima jami'a li kulli khisal al-khayr. So, the word birr, which is translated sometimes as piety or righteousness, this is a word that encompasses and includes every trait of goodness, every characteristic of goodness. These are the abrar. They carry traits of goodness. They carry with them traits of goodness. So now, al-mu'minun yawm al-qiyamah, on the day of resurrection, the believers ala thalathi tabaqat, they're going to be on three different levels. So are the believers all the same, one and the same? That is, do they all deserve the same exact reward? No. They're on different levels. Tabaqat. Minhum al-zalim li nafsi. From them you have the one who oppresses himself. Wa minhum al-muqtasid. Then there is someone who's a little bit above that, and they are a person who he doesn't oppress himself. Rather, he's a higher level, as will be explained. وَمِنْهُمْ سَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. And from them, on the day of resurrection, from the class of believers, that is, there will be those who are the foremost in doing good, and they're at the highest level, by the permission of Allah. So now he explains each one of these groups. الظَّالِمْ لِنَفْسِهِ هُوَ الْعَاصِي الَّذِي مَعْصِيَتُهُ دُونَ شِرْكٍ. The person who oppresses himself is the disobedient believer. He's a believer, but he has some sins, that is. whose sins are less than disbelief and polytheism, less than shirk. That's because if he were upon shirk, then what would he be? Major shirk, that is, he would be a disbeliever. He wouldn't be in the class of the believers at all. So sins less than that. Then this is considered a person who was a oppressor to himself. He's still in the class of believers. What does that mean? That sins that are less than shirk, they do not take one out of the fold of Islam, but rather they're still believers. Okay? As for sins and those things that would invalidate the faith, then yes, this takes one out of the fold and it removes the iman, the asl, the foundation of faith, such that they would be a disbeliever. But this is referring to sins that are less than shirk. فَهُوَ تَحْتَ الْمَشِيئَةِ. This type of person now, what is the result and the consequence of a person who dies as an oppressor to himself, a sinner? Then he's under the will of Allah. If Allah wills, غَفَرَ لَهُ وَإِنْ شَاءَ عَذَّبَهُ وَإِنْ شَاءَ عَذَّبَهُ. If Allah wishes, He will forgive him. If He wishes, He will punish him. However, if Allah punishes them, then it will be a punishment that is temporary, right? As a form of purification for them, and ultimately they will return, they will enter into paradise. Then you have the muqtasid, and this is of a higher rank than the one who oppresses himself. هُوَ الَّذِي يَفْعَلَ الطَّاعَاتِ. He's the one who does the acts of obedience that Allah orders. وَيَتْرُكَ الْمُحَرَّمَاتِ. He stays away from forbidden things. فَهُوَ اقْتَصَرَ عَلَى فِعْلِ الطَّاعَاتِ. He limits himself to doing the obligations and staying away. He doesn't leave off any of them. وَتَجَنَّبَ الْمُحَرَّمَاتِ. And he stays and avoids forbidden things. وَلَمْ يَفْعَلْ مِنْهَا شَيْئًا. And doesn't do any of them. Right? هَؤُلَاء هُمُ الْأَبْرَارِ. This is what we're discussing. This is the class that is being mentioned in this chapter at Surah Al-Insan. إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارِ يَشْرَبُونَ مِنْ كَأْسٍ كَانَ مِزَاجُهَا كَافُورًا. الْأَبْرَارِ مَنْ هُمْ؟ الْمُقْتَصِدُونَ. They're that middle group. The Abrar, they are the ones who are, the one who is muqtasid, he's bar. He is from that class that is, they do everything that Allah orders, stay away from everything He forbids. But they don't do something more, they don't do more than that. They limit themselves, يَقْتَصِرُونَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. They limit themselves to the obligation to stay away from the prohibitions. ثُمَّ فَوْقَهُمْ وَفَوْقَهُمْ السَّابِقُونَ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ وهم الذين فعلوا طاعات وتركوا المحرمات وفعلوا الواجبات والمستحبات وتركوا المحرمات والمكروهات وكذلك تجنبوا المشتبهات من باب الاحتياط. Subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among them. Then you have above that those who are foremost, those who are closest to Allah. They are the ones who do all of the acts of obedience that Allah has ordered. They stay away from everything Allah forbade. They do the obligations and the recommended things. And that's what the muqtasidun don't do. So for instance, the muqtasid, mathalan, he prays all of his salawat, obligatory prayers that is. He doesn't pray optional prayers. Okay? He fasts the month of Ramadan. He doesn't fast Mondays and Thursdays. He doesn't fast 6th of Shawwal. He doesn't fast, for instance, the Ayyam al-Bid, the three white days of each month. Okay? He limits himself to the obligations. But he also doesn't commit sins. As-Sabiqun, they do all of that and more. So they will pray the 5 daily prayers. They'll also pray the sunan, the optional ratibah, the sunnah prayers along with it. They will fast. They will do extra fasting. They will pay the obligatory alms, zakat al-mal. They will give zakat al-fitr, but they will also give extra sadaqat. They'll give more in charity. So they're on a higher level. Not only that, they stay away from the forbidden things. They stay away from disliked things. And in addition to that, tajannabul mushtabihat. They keep away from unclear matters. They keep away from unclear matters. Min bab al-ihtiyat. Out of caution, they do that. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبَهَاتِ فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَإِرْضِهِ. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ بَيِّنْ وَإِنَّ الْحَرَامَ بَيِّنْ وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ لَا يَعْلَمُهُنَّ كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ. Halal is clear. Haram is clear. And between those two, there are matters that are unclear, that a lot of people don't know about. So whoever stays away from that gray area, you got the black and white, then whoever stays away from the gray, then he frees himself regarding his religion and his honor, his deen with respect to what is between him and Allah, his honor with what is respect between him and the people. Right? This is a higher level. It's a very high level now. So they do all of those things. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى هم درجات عند الله والله بصير بما يعملون. They are at different levels and ranks with Allah. And Allah is all seer of what they do. So the believers, all of this, they are all classified as the believers. They're on different levels though. ثم ذكر جزاء الأبرار. Then afterwards Allah mentions the recompense, the reward for the abrar. Abrar is plural for what word? Bar, not bir, bar. The bar is the person who is what? Muti', muttaqi. He is obedient and pious. He does what Allah orders him. This is the abrar. We just described the abrar. They're muqtasidun, the ones who do what Allah orders, stay away from what forbids. Alright? So they, Allah mentions about them, يَشْرَبُونَ مِنْ كَأْسٍ. Al-Kats huwa wi'a al-sharab. It's a utensil, a vessel for drinking. كَانَ مِزَاجُهَا أي خِلْطُهَا. Its mizaj, meaning its mixture, is going to be kafur, camphor. Camphor is something that it is a plant, herb or something like that produces a very pleasant fragrance, a very sweet smell. Now we know, however, what is in paradise in terms of the haqiqah, the reality of it. It's not like what is in the dunya. So al-khamr mathalan, alcohol, wine, right? The believers will drink wine in paradise. It's not the same as wine in the dunya. Wine in the dunya intoxicates. It removes a person's sanity. It makes them sick. They'll have hangovers, right? But the khamr in the hereafter doesn't give them any of this. It's nothing but excellency. It's something very pleasant. It's forbidden for the believers in this dunya. In the hereafter, it's from the rewards and from the great things for the believers in the hereafter. And likewise, these things that are being discussed, the reality of them, we know them by wording and meaning, but the reality of these things in the hereafter are not the same as they are in this dunya. So it will be mixed, this drink of theirs will be mixed with kafur. It's baridul madaq. It has a cool taste to it. فَهُمْ يَشْرَبُونَ. So they will drink from it, and it will be mixed, and it will be made pleasant with this kafur. The source of that drink that they will drink from, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the following verse, عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ. A spring that the servants of Allah will drink from. يَشْرَبُ بِهَا. يعني يشرب منها. بها أي منها. From it. يشرب منها. عباد الله. المراد بالعبودية الخاصة. المراد هنا عباد الله, the servants of Allah. Who is it referring to? The believing servants of Allah. But aren't disbelievers also servants of Allah? Is this true or no?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Who said yes?
I say yeah.
The disbelievers are servants of Allah?
Yeah.
You're going to have to explain yourself, brother.
No, seriously?
No. Correct. You're correct. I'm playing with you.
Okay, I thought I was going to explain.
Yes, all of the creation are ibad Allah. All of the creation, believers and disbelievers, are servants of Allah. However, there's a difference. The believers submit to Allah Ta'ala willingly. They submit to Allah Ta'ala willingly. So the Shaykh explains, Ibadullah, al-murad al-ubudiyya al-khasa. It's a specific servitude, وَهُمْ أَهْلُ الْإِيمَانِ, referring to, Ibad can refer to all of the believers and disbelievers. Ibad can also sometimes refer to only the believers. Here it's referring to only the believers, أهل الإيمان. وإلا فإن كل الخلق عباد الله. Otherwise, all of the creation can be referred to as slaves, servants of Allah. مؤمنهم وكافرهم. The believers among them, the disbelievers among them. And this is referred to as ubudiyya amma, general servitude that applies across the board for everyone. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى إن كل من في السماوات والأرض إلا آتي الرحمن عبدا. Everyone in the heavens and the earth will come to Ar-Rahman as a servant. That includes the disbelievers as well. They are servants of Allah because they are bound to the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is not out of choice. They are under the compelling power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and under His decrees. So they are servants of Allah as well. The believer, on the other hand, is a servant of Allah from that standpoint, but he's also a servant of Allah due to his willingness to submit to the legislation of Allah. So the specific servitude, فَإِنَّهَا لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, this is specific for the believers. So عِبَادَ اللَّهِ يُرَادُ بِهَا الْمَدْ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this, عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ, a spring that the servants of Allah are going to drink from. This is a type of praise from Allah, giving them that title there. وَهَذِهِ الْعَيْنِ, and this spring, يُفَجِّرُونَهَا تَفْجِيرًا, causing it to gush forth abundantly. They would drink from it, causing it to gush forth abundantly. عَلَى مَطْلُوبِهِمْ وَرَغَبَاتِهِمْ, They will get to drink from these springs according to their requests and according to their desires, whenever they wish, whenever they desire. فَهُمْ أَيْنَمَا أَرَادُوهَا وَجَدُوهَا. Whenever they want to drink from it, they'll find it there. So they will actually have control of the flow of it. Right? If they wanted to flow in over here, if they wanted to go over there, they have full control of it. Subhanallah. وَلَا يَحْتَاجُونَ إِلَى كُلْفَةٍ وَحَفْرَ آبَارٍ. They will not have to be burdened with like building wells and doing any types of thing, digging holes in the ground to get, because springs come from underground. They don't have to do any of this kind of thing. فهي ميسرة يفجرونها تفجيرا حسب طلبهم. It's going to be something extremely easy. They will come to them according to whenever they want, whenever they desire. وَلَيْسَ فِيهَا شُحْ. It's not going to ever withhold itself, the spring. It will never withhold its flow. مثل ما في الدنيا, like in this world, springs can run dry, things can run out. وَلَا تَنْفَدْ عَلَى طُولِ الْوَقْتِ. No matter how long, it's never going to dissipate and disappear. Or due to an abundance of consumption. How many people are in Jannah, drinking from the spring, but it never runs out? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned their deeds that led them to have this noble honor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and this is going to be where we'll stop. يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. And they fulfill vows, and they fear a day whose evil will be widespread. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. And they feed others food in spite of their love for it. They feed the poor, the orphan, and the captive. And they say, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We feed you seeking the face of Allah only. We do not desire from you any compensation for it, nor any thanks. إِنَّا نَخَافُ مِنْ رَبِّنَا يَوْمًا عَبُوسًا قَمْطَرِيرًا. We feared from our Lord a day that would be distressful, making the faces look horrible. فَوَقَاهُمُ اللَّهُ شَرَّ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ وَلَقَّاهُمْ نَضْرَةً وَسُرُورًا. So Allah saved them from the evil of that day, meaning the day of judgment. And He gave them a light, radiance and joy. وَجَزَاهُمْ بِمَا صَبَرُوا جَنَّةً وَحَرِيرًا. And their recompense, because they were patient, is going to be paradise and silken garments. مُتَّكِئِينَ فِيهَا عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ. Reclining on raised thrones. لَا يَرَوْنَ فِيهَا شَمْسًا وَلَا زَمْهَرِيرًا. They will not see there any type of excessive heat from the sun, nor any type of excessive cold. وَدَانِيَةً عَلَيْهِمْ ظِلَالُهَا وَذُلِّلَتْ قُطُوفُهَا تَذْلِيلًا. Its shade is going to be close to them and its fruits will hang low in reach. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these verses, He mentions the sifat al-abrar. He mentions now the sifat of the abrar. So we started off with mentioning the disbelievers, their recompense, then the believers and their recompense. Then Allah discusses what led to that recompense, which is their sifat. What were their qualities that led to this? And this we will discuss inshaAllah in the next sitting. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the abrar or sabiqeen, and that He save us and spare us His wrath and His displeasure and His punishment. And He join us with the Nabiyyin wa Siddiqeen wa Shuhada wa Salihin wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.